And what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. We are back with another not so deep dive. Actually, the way that this is scheduled, this is going to be the first not so deep dive. So we are bringing back not so deep dives for the 2025 season, our fifth year in a row, and our second with great content creators as our guests. And we are super, super lucky to have Ty here from the Wise Men Say podcast to chat all about the Columbus Crew. And I mean, I'll try my best not to bring up Red Bull in the playoffs because that is something near and dear to my heart. But I do want to say hello, Ty. How you doing?
It's another day in paradise. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm really excited to have you here. We're really excited to get going again with Not So Deep Dives. It's one of our favorite series we do every year. We get to chat with great content creators like yourself to preview all of these teams with a little bit more knowledge than we used to do back in season one. So, really excited to get this going and really excited to transition into a scarf of the week because people have seen mine 900 times, but we haven't seen yours. So what are you rocking today?
Actually, this is probably my first scarf trade I've ever did. It's exclusive Timbers Army. Where'd it go? That was exclusively given to Timbers Army. I was
Oh, okay.
let's blur it out. Um, it's a timber gym scarf. It
Oh,
says
sick.
spread the love on one side, and then on the other side, it says yesterday, today, forever, and it has the sunflower on. I can't don't remember how to get my blur off, but
That's all right. That
it's
is
my first scarf trade I ever did. This was given exclusively to Timbers Army members.
that is so sick. I've been contemplating because I'm a Red Bull fan in South Carolina now. So I go to Charlotte, I go to
There you
Atlanta.
go.
Nice. Love that. Spread the love. Very nice.
And then the yesterday,
Yesterday,
today,
today,
forever with
forever.
the
Oh, that's so good.
sunflower.
That is so, so good. That is top notch right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I go to all these away games, and I actually was in Orlando for the playoff game, and I brought a scarf for our friends from Loud Proud Orlando. But I didn't do a trade, so I never got anything in return, which is fine. I wasn't expecting it, but I've always thought about that. Like, man, it'd be really cool to like trade something and have a something that I went to this game and got it from another, content creator, whatever. So I've kept that in the back of my mind too. Um, Mine is just a kind of general, little old school, but it's Columbus
Oh
Crew with
yeah.
the old school logo.
The
This one
OGs.
yeah, I don't know why they ever changed. I thought this was the greatest thing. I loved it. But this came after we did an interview with John Bush, the crew goalkeeper. So
Yeah.
we sat down with him and in kind of like a celebration of getting to chat with him, I picked this one up for myself. So it's got a little meaning to it as well.
Nice.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love scarves. So I could sit here and talk all day, but I think people want to hear more about the 2025 Columbus Crew season because Columbus are coming in and entering another year of non ball, which is really, really wonderful. I love their style of play. But what is most surprising to me is that most of its core team is still intact as of 2-125. We don't know what kickoff's going to be on day one, but as of right now, pretty much most of the core players are returning. Wilfred Nancy's back at the helm for another season, managing this Columbus team that dominated the ball, played wonderful football, but they were left, at least to me, feeling like they should have had more. After a second place finish in the East, they were bounced out of MLS Cup by the mighty, mighty New York Red Bull in the first round. They did make it all the way to the finals of the Champions Cup, losing to Pachuca. We did a whole deep dive. There was poison, food poisoning and all that sort of stuff behind it. But they did lose that game. They won Leagues Cup and were not involved in U.S. Open Cup. So in 2025, they're back in Champions Cup, they're back in Leagues Cup, and they're going to look at to run it back again. How did you feel about the 2024 season? I personally thought you probably should have gotten more out of it. Interesting to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not fun when, the reigning MLS Cup champions get bounced in the first round of the playoffs the next season. But I mean, a lot of people look at this season like it's a bust, right? Because we didn't win MLS Cup, but if you look at how many games this team played, we played north of 60 games. right? We still won a trophy no matter what. I mean, yeah, it's not MLS Cup, it's not, CONCACAF Champions Cup. It's still a trophy no matter what. So we ended the season with a trophy, the second under Wilfried Nancy in as many years that he's been in charge. So I mean, it was a good season to end. Maybe the guys are happy it ended a little earlier because they definitely needed the rest, but after talking with them at media availability a couple weeks ago, they're happy because they wanted to spend time with family, but they're sad because it was a longer off season than what they really hoped for. 2024 was also one of those ones where it was like, okay, every team has our number now. Every team knows what we want to do. How can we break this down? How can we change things? And it was a very interesting, was a sophomore slump type season that everybody said. But I mean, nonetheless, a trophy's a trophy, whether it's Leagues Cup, Open Cup, Campeones Cup that we lost to Club America in. But a trophy's a trophy no matter what. And obviously, we want more trophies here in 2025.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I totally forgot about Campeones Cup too.
It's a
That just
one-off. It's all right.
Yeah. Well, listen, we mentioned before the club has brought back most of its core team. You know, you didn't know if you're going to see Rossi stick around. You didn't know if you're going to see Kucha stick around. Didn't know if you're going to see Nancy stick around. I mean, there were all these rumors flying around that everybody wanted these players because they were really good. But because they haven't lost too much, it's been a relatively quiet offseason for Columbus in terms of the players in. I'd ask kind of what your thought on the best edition is, but to my best recollection, there's only one real signing. So unless I've missed one, your thoughts on Lassi Lapalainen joining the side?
Yeah, I mean, you take talking to Wilfred Nancy at media availability a couple weeks ago. I asked him, what he saw in Lapalainen that kind of attracted him to say, "Hey, I want this guy." He goes, "Yeah, he can play both feet, left and right. He's able to get through in the back line. He can push forward. He can track back defensively. He does all these things well that he wants. You look at his time under Nazi in Montreal in 2022, 10 goal contributions, 3 goals, 7 assists in Montreal's breakout season where they finished second in the Eastern Conference under Wilfried Nancy. So it's one of those things where it's like, man, we're getting all these guys that Nazi knows best that can bring their own little flair to the system, but then I often ask myself, where are these guys going to fit in at? Because the way that Nazi has his system set up, the way that he has the wingers where Lapalainen is going to play, Max Arfson's doing well. Mo Farsi's doing really well. Herrera is doing really well. Who else? I can't remember. I can't remember who
I
else
think
we have, but
Dewan Jones plays in that
yeah, thank
wide
you.
area
Yeah.
too, doesn't he?
Yeah, DeJuan Jones is an absolute beast. It's like where are these guys going to play at? But it's not, my job to figure out where these guys are going to play at. It's just, okay, how is Nazi going to fit this guy in with this system to play against Cincinnati, Chicago, the Galaxy? It's a puzzle piece, but I'm looking at it from outsider looking in. I'm watching a chess grandmaster pretty much at work. So I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. I'm excited to see how he contributes to a very possession-based style of play. So it's going to be interesting, but I'm also excited to see a lot of goals from him or a lot of goal contributions from him.
Yeah, man, I love your description of Nancy as a chess master, right? So I've been coaching for about 5 years now, going through my licenses and learning how it's more than just tell your players to go play, right? There's all these
Yeah.
little intricate parts of it, and I've done it at the college level, I've done it at the youth level, and it's all this. But now I start watching games like with a little bit more focus on stuff like that. Oh my, like perfect description. The way that he moves his pieces and the timing and how precise everything has to be, and 3 steps ahead always. He's brilliant. I'm really glad they held on to him because he does it the right way. Like he set the bar for what teams should be doing in this league in the next 5 years. As we transition to MLS 4.0, that's what we need to be doing. Players and coaches of that quality. So I think it's a perfectly apt description of him 100%. I love that he's going out and getting players like Lapalainen who he knows will fit his versatile system. He knows from his past, right, players that he's worked under, and I just I don't question him. I think is kind of the point. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I don't know, Wilfred Nancy, like you've been pretty good in Montreal, you've been really good in Columbus, you've been really good in Columbus again. I don't know if I could trust you on this one. Like he's clearly got a plan. He understands what he wants to do. But I will say the positional transition from left winger in Finland all the way back to left center back in Columbus is going to be elite. Can't wait to see him play center
Oh
back
yeah.
here, like the Malte Amundsen move, right? This
Oh my
guy's
gosh, yes.
an attacking wing back only for New York City. He's like, guess what? You're getting stuck in a back three. And if Lassi
Yeah.
Lapalainen plays back three and they still find a way to win this, just name the coach of the year after Wilfred Nancy at this point because
Oh yeah.
there's nothing this man can't do.
No, I know, 100%. And that's a thing that a lot of people, especially I I go down the rabbit hole of Crew 96 on Twitter, the hashtag, and I'm just like, these guys don't know what they're talking about. Because it's one thing to see, people complain about, Nazi making subs and stuff like that. And it's easy to be like, he needs to make a sub here, he needs to make a sub here. But being on the inside and being able to talk with him, it's like he doesn't see the game like we like fans do, right? He sees it completely different. He compared making subs to a party in 2023, and we're like, that's a damn good analogy. Like,
Right.
what is happening? Okay, cool. And then all of a sudden he makes subs, and it's like, Yao Yaboa comes off the bench. He's a game changer. Sean Zawoski comes off the bench. He's a game changer. DeJuan Jones off the bench. He's a game changer. So it's one of those things where it's like this guy knows what he's doing, and I really hope that he stays a long time in Columbus. But attraction elsewhere is definitely creeping up on us.
What I would do for 10 minutes of Wilfred Nancy teaching me tactics. Listen, he may go, Kucha may go, Rossi may go, lots of people, Farsi may go, lots of people may go. But right now they haven't lost any of them. So I want to pick your brain on what you might think the biggest loss to this point would be.
Aiden Morris. Aiden Morris is a big one. You're talking about a guy who grew up in the Crew Academy, getting his debut in 2020, I think it was, filling in for Darlington Nagbe when he had COVID in the 2020 MLS Cup, then going on and tearing his ACL in the CONCACAF when it was the CONCACAF Champions League in 2021. But you lose Aiden Morris to Middlesbrough. You're also losing a great midfielder who's not afraid to do the dirty work, not afraid to go into a challenge, not afraid to bully somebody off the ball with a shoulder, with his body. Nonetheless, you're losing that commander in the midfield, and the Crew haven't found anybody to replace him. I mean, Sean Zawatsky is good, but I feel Sean Zawatsky is a little bit timid to go into these challenges that Aiden Morris wasn't afraid to go into, right? Darlington Nagbe plays more of a possession, defensive minded midfielder, where Aiden Morris was kind of that possession, but he went into the attack a little bit, hanging out outside the 18-yard box to rip a shot from distance and have it go in or just miss. You lose a guy that has this mentality of I'm going straight in and just dominating this entire midfield to not having anybody that can do that. And it's like it's night and day, right? So for Columbus to not have anybody yet, I should say, fill that void that Aiden Morris left, it's more so of okay, now everybody's going to pick on Zawadski because he's timid, he's a little bit more conservative, he can play, but he's not that Aiden Morris. He doesn't have that dog in him that people say Aiden Morris had. But that was probably the biggest loss in Crew history, next to Lucas Zelarayan when he left in 2023 also.
Yeah. But you replaced Ryan. You haven't quite replaced Morris yet. So
Yeah, yeah.
got to pick your brain because it's a little bit of a running meme on our show. Your thoughts on the Middlesbrough move? You like it or you don't like it?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think Aiden Morris needed a challenge, and I think Middlesbrough gives him that challenge. The championship is no joke.
Thank you.
Honestly, the championship is no joke. I've watched games with like Wigan, or I can't remember who the other one was. I watched a long time ago. But like Middlesbrough, now Luton Town is no joke either. Like the championship is no joke. And he goes there, he's automatically a starter pretty much. So and Borough fans love him. They have a whole chant for him now, and I'm like, this is probably the greatest move that Ada Morris could have ever done in his career.
Man, so our most viewed clip with the most comments on YouTube with the most interactions of all is my co-host who's not here. For anybody who's wondering, where's Connor? Connor's in his busy season as an accountant. He will not be on the Not So Deep Dive series, but he will be back as soon as we're done. We promise. I haven't kicked him off for this terrible take that he had, but he goes out when we're talking about this Aiden Morris move and he just rips it apart. He's like, he should be going to a higher level. He should be playing in, Belgian first division, French first division, whatever. He lists all these things. I'm telling you, we've got 4,000 views and like 200 comments just ripping him apart. They've been, I mean, we got a comment on it like a month ago. We posted the thing back when he moved like 6 months ago. So it has gone and just blown up. It is kind of our running joke now. Anytime anybody brings up Aiden Morris, we make a joke with Connor. But I would agree with you. I'd agree that that is a huge loss, and I had a feeling you were going to bring that up. So I wanted to highlight Alexandre Matan,
Yeah.
the kind of wider attacking player. He's not the Diego Rossi or the Cucho, but he found this resurgence under Nancy, right? 7 goals,
Yeah.
18 assists over 2 seasons, and I live for his resurgence in front of Caleb Porter. I mean, that just right to my veins. Needed that in my life. I was surprised he didn't go over and just knee slide in front of him and what's that about, right? Like that's I needed that just to cap it off. But
Oh yeah.
he knew the system. He was very, very knowledgeable about the system. He fit the system really well. I'm not saying you can't replace him, but I do think it's going to be more difficult than easy to replace him for sure.
With my a thing with Matan, right, was when he came to Columbus, he had nobody here. His girlfriend wasn't here, his family wasn't here. So starting a whole new life without having your loved ones here was really tough on him mentally. Then he gets loaned out to I think it was Rapid Bucharesti in Romania back home, goes there, and then he comes back. Then he's like a whole new person under Wilfried Nazi. And the thing was, he Nazi would push him each and every day to do a little bit more. And that those words exact I want him to do a little bit more. And man, that New England game when he scored that hat trick, I've never been more happy for anybody in my life than I was with my time because you could see the difference when not saying Caleb Porter was a bad coach. See the difference when Caleb Porter was in town and Matan wasn't getting any minutes. It was very frustrating for him. You see Nancy giving him start after start after start. He's scoring goals. It's again night and day with him between the two coaches. And it was just one of those things when he scored that hat trick, I'm sitting in the press box like, man, that's great. Inside, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, he needed that. It sucks to see him go because he's such a nice guy. But I'm surprised no team has picked him up yet.
Likewise, I thought it would have been the first name off the board.
Yeah. He has the ability to turn a game around. He has the ability to give a spark to a team that they need. But I'm just surprised nobody's picked him up yet. I would assume San Jose would be picking him up because San Jose is going crazy right now with
Yeah,
signing people.
them in New England, but I couldn't imagine Caleb Porter
No,
being like, hey, Matan.
no,
Could you
no way.
imagine? Oh man, well, like I said, not a ton of movement in that team,
Yeah.
but I am curious. Do you think there's somebody that we should keep an eye on this year as a breakout player, or just somebody to watch to take that next step from their game in this Columbus team?
I think I said it earlier. Max Arson is it's definitely an eye to keep definitely one to keep an eye on. When he filled in for Yao Yaboa when Yaboa was injured a little bit, he took the opportunity and seized it and made it his. Eventually bumping Yaboa to the bench after Yaboa gets that game-winning goal against LAFC in the 2023 MLS Cup. Max Arson goes from a nobody being drafted in the MLS Super Draft from San Jose Quakes 2 to being this name that is now being floated around the USMNT camp where he just was. He dude, great guy, but I think with him is that he's very sneaky, right? Because he has the pace on that left-hand side to get up and back at free will. The guy doesn't get tired. I would say look for him because him and Cujo have a great connection. That left wing back spot to the nine. They have a great connection. I think Arson is definitely one of those guys that if you give him the time and space, he's definitely going to be taking you on 1v1. He's going to be, you know, doing the fancy step overs and getting around the defenders, and then the crossing ability is there also with him. So I would say Max Arvson is definitely one. Another one, if you want to have a sneaky suspicion on somebody, I'd probably say he's been good already with New England. DeJuan Jones under a full season with Wilfried Nancy, DeJuan Jones also.
Yeah, I like that. Very, very impressed with Arfston in his national team debut. I thought he was very, very solid. Not somebody that I was shocked by. Like I wasn't shocked that he was like solid there. Like he held his own. Pleasantly pleased, right? I really enjoyed that because that left back spot behind Anthony Robinson's open. I mean, there really isn't anybody who stepped up and was like, I can be your number two there. So I think we're just about a year away, year and a half away from that roster going out. And if they need somebody, it's who's hottest in the next 12 months. So I
Yeah.
really, really like that he did that. For me, it's just very interested to see how they're going to utilize Aziel Jackson, right? I think he comes in from St. Louis midway through the year, 2 goals, 2 assists in just 300 or so minutes. Really love his technical ability. Like watching him play makes me very happy. Like he's just got everything about him that I enjoy in a player in that position as a coach and as a player myself. Um, so I'm interested to see what he can do with possibly an elevated role. I'm not quite sure where he fits in yet personally, but I would love to see him get a little bit more of a run out because I think he does have that ability about him for sure.
Yeah, I like AZ. I mean, there was I can't remember what game it was, where you saw a part of AZ nobody's ever seen before. He gave up the ball, it led to a goal, didn't track back good enough. He came on as a sub and then was substituted out like 20 minutes later. And then the next game, I think it was the New England Revolution home match, where it was a complete 180 from himself. He had a bad game and then automatically turns it around and does an absolute wonder masterclass of a game. I think where we could see him, he'll probably be a more advanced role, sitting probably behind Ramirez or Rossi. I think it really depends on the opposition and how the game's going at the time. But I think seeing him in that more advanced role will be a good thing to see because it's another attacking option that Nazi has. But it's also I can see him being and more of an attacker than just sitting in the midfield next to Nagby and just kind of playing that midfield spot to where I can't go up too far, but I have to drop back. He's more of an attacking player, like you said, with his speed, ability on the ball, and just being able to his vision also is just definitely an attacker's mindset.
Yeah, man, you can't drop him. Like when Pochettino dropped Kramashi that deep, I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like you're taking away everything that he gives to you as a player. I would feel the same about AZ if he goes that deep. So as we head into 2025, I do want to ask, like, what's the one thing that's on your mind that you're not so sure about yet this year? What are you trying to keep an eye on as the year progresses?
Can Cujo Hernandez get a contract extension?
Nice.
But aside from that, because that's the one thing everybody wants is a Cujo contract extension. I think the biggest one is can we keep up this run of play? Can we keep up the style and not let it kind of just die down to where we're falling back into the 2021, the 2022 years of the Columbus Crew? A lot of teams, everybody has our number, obviously, but it's how can we keep this the same way, but make minor adjustments to where it's not the same, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I think you look at take game one for the from the Red Bulls, for example. Cujo Hernandez could not buy a day of green space in front of him. New York plays their game, they get the goal, and then they sit back. They defend, they park the bus. How can we break that down? How can if we go down, how and a team parks the bus, how can we break that down? How can we keep our foot on the gas if we're up 4-2, 5-2 in a game and not give up a goal to get this other team back in it? Can we close out games also? So it just the little things like, can we keep this play going without having it stall in the middle of the season, especially with the tournaments that we're in?
You read my mind. Nancy ball is beautiful, but eventually, if I'm on a scout team in Red Bull land and we're trying to say, well, kind of already did figure it out. I don't want to rub it in, but yeah, we did figure it out. But if I'm in
It's all
San
right.
Jose, right, my first job is when Columbus comes to town, how are we stopping this? Right. So like you mentioned, everybody's got your number. Teams are going to figure you out. Is Wilfried Nancy flexible enough to ensure long-term success, right? When teams figure it out, does he have another option in the bag? When teams start high pressing him to the point where they can't play out of the back, to the point where Nagby is neutralized, which is, by the way, impossible. You cannot neutralize Darlington Nagby. But, you know, if he gets to a point where he becomes less impactful, what's the next step, right? If he doesn't have that in his back pocket, it may be difficult for them. So that's what I'm watching is how do teams adjust to them and how does he adjust to the team adjustment?
Yeah. And Nagby being the most fouled player in MLS, I mean, it's just like, why?
There
But
is nobody
yeah,
like him.
I think Nazi has a game plan. It's just going to be interesting because he did say it's going to be this year is going to be a little bit of 2023 and 2024 combined. So I guess we'll see come February 22nd when we play Chicago Fire.
Well, as we mentioned, I'm not here to question him. I'm pretty sure he's got it. I'm pretty sure
Oh
he's
yeah,
got it. Um,
100%.
yeah. Well, let's wrap it up then. We're
Yeah,
talking all about the team. We're talking about how they've got all these players back. Nancy ball. Nancy's got every answer to every question in everybody's mind ever. Um, Predict their finish. You can. What I usually do is I give it a range. 3, 4 spot range, or you can go
yeah.
straight out with a position. But where does the Columbus Crew finish this year?
You mentioned at the beginning, we have a lot of our core players back. So obviously the bond is still there. Everybody knows each other's strengths, weaknesses. I would say the Crew could probably by the highest I think they finish is second in the East, but don't go any lower than fourth in the East. I think people ask me why fourth. I'm like, look at all these games that we're gonna play. Like it's happening again. We're playing north of 60 games this year, possibly 70, depending on how this new Leagues Cup format goes and whatnot. But I would say the highest I can see them is finishing second with no lower than fourth as their bad finish.
Very nice. That's interesting that you've taken who goes in one then, if you don't see him at number one.
I mean, it's a toss up, right? Because you got to think the Red Bulls are coming off a high. Granted, they lost the MLS Cup, but they're coming at a high. Getting triple moting from how was it Bayern, I think it was,
Yep.
is a it's a solid pickup. Not gonna lie, but then you also have to think of Orlando City. Oscar Pereja, he's absolutely wild with Orlando City. New York City is underdog in my opinion because Matt Freese is one hell of a goalkeeper, but there's so many if answer, but it's not going to be Cincinnati. They're falling apart. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
But it's one of those sleeper teams. I think is going to be number one in the East.
Interesting. I love hearing other people have a hype for Red Bull because I myself will never have hype for Red Bull. So it's nice to have other people give that to me. I agree with you. I think they've kept the core of that group together. I think they've added a lot of important pieces to bolster to it. I've got them at 1-4 in the East. I don't see them dipping out. I know they've got a lot of games. They had a lot of games last year. They've got
Yeah.
Darlington Nagby. I'm not betting. Wilfred Nancy, Kucher Hernandez, Darlington Nagby. You bet against those guys, you might as well just burn your money. So, um,
Fair.
yeah, listen, thanks so much for coming on here. I really enjoyed this chat, and I know our listeners will as well. I want to give you a little bit of time to tell everybody where to find you and all of your content.
Yeah, so as you said before, I'm the host of the Wiseman Say podcast, Columbus Soccer podcast. You guys can find the podcast on wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, iHeart. Go watch us on YouTube, Spotify, Goals TV. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Fisher Tyler __. If you like to read, you can find my content at massivereport.com or at my personal Substack, tyfisher.substack.com.
There you go. Guys, make sure you go send some love over that way. Tell them you came from us because they are doing really, really good stuff over in Crew World there. We will definitely have to get them back on and have a real chat with a lot more in depth. This is called Not So Deep Dives for a reason. We don't have a lot of time to do all of the deep dives, but we will have to sit down and have a nice long chat with you all. Because I know you got a couple of hosts over there, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll
Me,
have to
Gerald, and just brought in Derek. Yep.
yeah, we're gonna have to sit down with all you guys because you guys are good people and really really enjoy your stuff. So make sure you guys head over there. If you guys are new here, come on and follow us because we've got 28 more of these that we are doing for every single team. So make sure you come and follow along for in-depth reviews of all of the other teams if you are interested. But yeah, Ty, thanks so much again for being here. We really, really enjoyed it. And we will see everybody on the next episode of Not So Deep Dives on the Designated Players and MLS podcast. See ya.